Hey everyone, welcome to Cerwin Vega's, and today we're going to be taking a look at my Cerwin Vega D3s. Now, I picked these up at a second-hand store. They had a pretty ridiculous price tag on them. I was able to get them to cut that in half, so I figured it was enough, it was worth me bringing them home. They're in pretty good shape, aside from your typical foam rot. Not a big deal. Easy to replace, easy to do. But we are going to go through these. I'm going to take them apart and we'll take a look inside. Take a look at the crossovers. I'm unsure of the year on these. Sometimes they do have the years stamped on the back of the woofers, on the magnet, sometimes. But other than that, there are other signs to kind of get a rough idea if they were an early production or a later production. But these, I'm going to guess, are going to be a little bit later in the probably late 80s, these ones, but we'll confirm that right away. So like I mentioned before, these things were in pretty good shape when I found them at the secondhand store. Nice and clean, even some of the corners. It's not really much for damage on them. The sides, they're not perfect. A little scrape there. And the rest of them are really good. The combs and the dust cap are in really, really good shape. Not even really faded that much, so kind of another reason I think they might be a later production year, and I'm pretty positive these are original foams. Now if you guys take a look, I don't know if you noticed, but the Cerwin Vega logos on the dust caps are crooked. A lot of times that's an easy way to tell that they've maybe been refoamed or been reconed sometimes, or I mean, if they refoam them and pull the dust caps off and put new ones on, they didn't put them on quite straight. But from my experience in working on these speakers, the cones and dust caps seem to be 100% original. So I'm kind of curious what's going on there. So I want to open that up and take a look. I got a pretty good idea what it is because I've pulled the crossover off this one. I've already pulled it out, so that's what I'm going to get to. Just an easy way, if you don't have a year on the back of these, to tell a little bit of the crossover differences. So I don't have an older crossover from Digital Series here with me right now, but I do have these, and this is out of a 29P, and this is the crossover out of these D3s. So again, this I believe is going to be in the later 80s, later in the production years, and for a couple of reasons. So if you notice, it does say internal self-resetting high frequency circuit breaker. So the smaller Digital Series speakers do not have an overall fuse protection, but they do have a circuit breaker for the tweeter, as well as these had the same. So this is pretty much the same. This is going to be the same crossover really that came out of the earlier D series. And you notice you've got a manual push to reset circuit breaker for the tweeter. And then on here, you do not. So this one's self-resetting. You do have the control, just like that one, but the circuit breaker is an automatic reset. You flip them both over, here's your first clue. They started using the board in here, and it actually makes it more difficult to recap these, but not impossible. So this is my first sign that this is later in the 80s. And then there's your self-resetting circuit breaker here. And the earlier production years of the Digital Series, the crossovers are going to look like this. And here's your circuit breaker with the manual push to reset. So just a little bit of this is a lot neater looking, but a little harder to do because you have to actually pull some of the solder. You actually have to remove some of these. Well, not on these. I guess you would have to remove these three here, pull the solder off, and here and here. And these two here is what connects your terminals. So that's one difference on here. The HED series, you can see these terminals are a bit different. This is the later, or the earlier speaker terminals. These were used in a lot of the 70s models had the same style. And then into the HEDs, and I don't think any of the digital series use these. By the time the digital series came out, they were using this push style terminal. But the crossover is more like this. So some of the digital series in the earlier years will have the manual push reset, and the later years will have the self resetting. So I'm not exactly 100% on the years where it changed, but we're going to find out. Hopefully maybe they stamped a year on the back of the woofer. I'm not expecting it. My D1s didn't have it, so maybe they will, maybe they won't. But let's open these up and see if we can find out. All right, perfect. So they did. These are stamped. So these were August 9th, 1988. And these are 101 W2 woofers, 10-inch. So yeah, so these are later in the production years of the D series, which is kind of what I expected. This guy out. There's the mid-range. Now, these look very similar to, well, maybe they are a bit different. So this is out of a HED U123, which is an earlier Cerwin Vega model. And this is the one out of the D3. As you can see, slight differences, but very close to the same. Magnet structure seems to be about the same size. They have the same enclosed basket style with a little bit of foam venting there, which is why there is no separate section inside like you see in some of them. If they have the open basket style for the mid-range, they usually have just it's like a cardboard, papery kind of enclosure that goes on the inside, and it separates the mid-range section from the rest of the cabinet, so the woofer isn't going to interfere with any of the operation of the mid-range. And then these tweeters are going to be, oh, these are tough to get out sometimes. There we go. So when it comes to these horn tweeters in the D series Cerwin Vega speakers, there's two different kinds, and they both look the exact same from the outside. The D1s all the way up to the D7s will have a C5G on the back, and the magnet structure itself is a lot smaller. And if you look on the waveguide, if that's what you want to call it, it's got the two mounting screws for the C5G here. And then as soon as you get to the D8s and 9s, they will have the CS5, I believe, and it is a bigger magnet. And that's, you can see these are the mounting holes for that. So there is a difference. They have a higher power handling than these ones. So if you have a set of D8s or D9s and you're looking for a replacement tweeter, yes, one out of the D1s to D7s will work. They are still the same 1-inch voice coil, diaphragm, horn tweeter. They all look the same, but they will be a lower power handling. So if you have D8 or D9, you're looking for a replacement tweeter, you want to make sure you get the right one with the larger magnet. So let's take a look on the inside of these cabinets. So they've got your baffling. And as typical, it's kind of a rushed, poor job done on these. There's Nothing on this side for baffling. It's just kind of a rushed job, so it's never a bad idea. If you're opening these up, if you have some of this laying around, I know I use a lot of time like carpet underlay, stuff like that. It's going to do the same thing. And then just do a neater job of covering all the hard surfaces. Any little bit in there is obviously going to help and be better than none, but seeing as how I got them all open, might as well. So I kind of want to show you guys what I found. I'm going to pull this one out. I'm assuming it is going to be the exact same as this one was, and I'll kind of show you something, kind of a little, these would have been like this right from the factory. It was a bit of a screw up, I believe. But let's pop that out and see if it's the same. And it is. So I was right. Come on. Here's the dates are a little different on them. Not too much. So the year is the same, 1988, but these are July 29th. So close. They're pretty much the same, just kind of depends when they were sitting around and when they got assembled. So now that we got the woofer out, and this one's pretty much the same with the baffling. Nothing on this side at all. Just kind of quickly thrown together. So I believe that this is the first time this woofer, I think, has ever been under this cabinet. And as you can see, you might not think so because there's two holes. This here, this is the hole that the screw was actually in. There's never been a screw in here. This is kind of an indent. So I put this in here. This isn't right through. This would have been like this. The holes were set for assembly when the cabinet was being made, and that's where the screws were supposed to go into. And whoever assembled these had them in crooked, because so the whole woofer was tilted this way because the emblem was, the Cerwin Vega logo was crooked. So, because it was supposed to be in here, and whoever assembled it put it off a bit. Because this one goes right through. I don't know if you can see. Oh. Yeah. That's where it was screwed into, and that's where it should have been. It's not a big deal. I am going to fill these holes in. I'm going to use kind of the same method I do when I'm fixing stripped out screws on cabinets. I'll show you guys how I do that. Same kind of idea. Because I don't want any holes in here that I don't need. Anywhere where you can let some air escape. I want it to seal nicely on here. So we're going to fix that up. Also, there was another issue I found. So I ordered foams for these already, and I have a bit of a concern with those foams. So in the same order, I ordered two 10-inch foams for these D3s, and then I've also got a set of AT12s coming in soon that I have to do the foams on. So I ordered both these foams from the same place. I ordered these from Simply Speakers. And I don't know if you guys can tell on the camera or not. The color is different. That was the first thing I noticed right away. Color seems a bit off. And remember, both came from Simply Speakers. And if you really look close, these almost have kind of they're a little sparkly, but it's still kind of a flat color to it, or a finish to it. And these have more of a gloss color. I don't know if you guys can tell or not. It's glossier than these are. These are kind of more flat. But when you get really close, these appear to be a bit darker than these. And then when you flip them over, there's a clear difference in color on the back side. Both kind of the gray, black, whatever color on the back of them, which most of them are. So then I really started looking into it. So like I said, these will do AT12s, VSW12s, lots of these foams are pretty common and for a lot of the 12-inch woofer models. And I don't know if you guys will be able to tell with my camera, but the roll on the foam on these is wider than these. This one's about 5/8 of an inch, I believe. And these are a little more. So they're wider. And when I go to match them up on my woofers, set them here. Now this you might not be able to tell, but the actual inside diameter is bigger than the originals. So I set it on there and I'm not really, it covers more of the cone than the original ones did. And it looks kind of funny to me, but the roll is a lot thicker on the new foams than these. So I was going to refoam these. I still am, but I don't think I'm going to use these foams. So I did a little bit of looking into some research into these foams, and I found another place, I believe Springfield Speaker, I think it's called, and they had actual measurements of their foams for their 101 W2 woofers. And the specs that they had on there for their foam is 5/8 of an inch thickness for the roll on their foams. And let's see if I can get my, let's just measure this. So if you can see that, 5/8 of an inch is pretty close to what these are. This might be a little bit bigger, but this is also the one for the 12. But look how much. Look how much wider these ones are. So I'm hoping the ones I get from Springfield Speaker are gonna be this size and a little bit smaller. I like to leave things, or I like to keep things as original as possible. So yeah, not overly thrilled with these, unfortunately. So those are gonna sit aside. I know I had seen some information that they were kind of talking, it's a lot easier for them to just make one style of 10-inch foam for all the speakers. I'm sure it's not really gonna affect the sound a whole lot, but it could. You any little extra resistance on that woofer and it's gonna be less sensitive, so you might lose a little bit of bass response. I ran into that before. The other thing I also want to mention is you look at the thickness of this one to this one. These are a lot thinner. I don't know if you guys can tell. You get my, but this foam is definitely thicker than this foam. And this one also looks better. A little glossier, little bit darker color. This is, I don't know, sucks. Because I'm in Canada here, and by the time I get, if I just to order these two and get them shipped to my door, it costs me about 60, 65 bucks. So it kind of sucks, but I don't want to use those. But apparently they just kind of made one for everything, and that would be like their subwoofers, their original 10-inch woofers and whatnot. So they kind of just made something that would fit all, because I believe that their subwoofers will have more of an excursion, so maybe that's why the roll's a little bit bigger. But oh well, I'm not going to use those. These though, these will be all right, which is good. Customer will be happy. But yeah, so this was going to be a video of fixing these up and getting the baffling all done and foamed, and unfortunately, and just today now, I ordered from this other company, and hopefully when those show up, it's a lot more original foam surround than the ones that I got from Simply Speakers. And then I don't know if I'm going to do the video on the refoaming. Comment below if you guys want to see that. I've already done one on 15-inch woofers out of my 215Ps. But if you're interested in seeing it with some 10-inch woofers, I can throw another refoam video out, I guess. There's already lots on YouTube right now, so I don't really see the point in it, but definitely gonna have a final result video and get them hooked up and play them a little bit and see how I like them, see how they sound. Because I am going to, actually, once I do get these all finished up, when the proper foams come in, I'm gonna be using this Pioneer SX680 vintage receiver that I got from a friend of mine that I work with. He found it actually at I believe it was a cell phone store, something like that he went to, and they had this there. It had a $30 price tag on it, so he picked it up and figured I'd be interested. I had it plugged in and played with it a little bit. It needs a little bit of cleaning. Cosmetically, it looks really clean, but you get right in there, it still needs to get some dirt and stuff cleaned out of it. And then all the pots and switches, they're a little crackly, so I'm gonna open this guy up and get some deoxin on it and clean up all the switches and everything, and hopefully get a nice clean sound out of it. They got power meters, kind of nice. This is a 30 watt per channel receiver, and a lot of the reviews I read on it, and they said it sounds like a big 30 watts. So figured it'd be a nice match for these D3s. See how they sound. Older Pioneer stuff is really good, so hoping for good results. Maybe I'll play with it on this one a little bit too. This is a Hitachi receiver, SR503. This is only 20 watts per channel. Still sounds pretty good. I already went through it and cleaned it up really good. It was really dirty. But after I got it all cleaned up, she shines up real nice and sounds pretty good. So hoping for the same results on this guy. So that's gonna about do it for this video. Nothing too exciting, guys, but keep watch for the video once I get the foams. Whether I do the foaming video or not, or just kind of do the final test. I might do a video too on cleaning up this Pioneer receiver once I get the chance. And yeah, until then, remember, Cerwin Vega, big or small, save them all.